Hey guys, welcome to the cell phone parking lot at Austin Bergstrom International, otherwise known as AUS, here in Austin. So what I want to do is to summarize how FSD worked on my recent trip up to Boston and back. So here we go. So let me start with going up first. Okay, so going up, first day, I had two instances where Autopilot got so mad, or FSD got so mad, that it said you can't use it anymore for this trip, which basically means you have to pull over somewhere, get out of the car, let the car reset, get back in, and then start FSD again. Since I already had two of those, I was going like, oh wait, that's not what I want to do. So what I had started out with was I subscribed to FSD for Opare. And so part of it was to let my daughter and her husband try out FSD to some extent. I would have taken Grandpa, but in late November, there's too much chance of snow, and I have summer tires on that car, so that wouldn't work. So I subscribed to FSD on Opare and took it up there. So anyway, so I had those two. I don't think they turned out to be strikes, but it was like, if I get 5 strikes, then they disable FSD for a week. That doesn't do what I want to do. So I calmed down and drove more manually. Right, that's just the way it is. Or use TAC. Right, TAC doesn't get strikes, but TAC only maintains speed, and that works perfectly fine on highways. So most of it. Yeah, it's perfectly fine. So anyway, I got up to Boston with hardly using FSD at all. Now, one of the strikes, I think, was I was coming up to pass a semi pulling a parking garage piece, precast, and all of a sudden I noticed that there's another truck that's coming out in front of him. So I was like, wait a minute, you guys, I don't trust you guys. So that was one of the strikes. The other strike, I don't remember, but I think it was kind of a vision-based thing. And to tell you the truth, I wasn't used to at that time vision-based FSD or vision-based monitoring in FSD. So that caught me off guard a little bit. Okay, so anyway, that's the beginning of the story, but that's just the way it is. Okay, now some parts I'll have to go back and reshuffle, So I'll check to see what I have for FSD when I'm in Boston. I think most of the notes I have are about FSD coming back, where I was going like, okay, if you suspend me coming back, no big deal. I know how to drive my car. So there we are. And yes, I guess it's going to turn out to be kind of long, isn't it? Looking through the notes I have, I don't have anything particularly related to my daughter or her husband as far as FSD goes. I know they both drove, so we went out from their house, went out to Cape Cod and back. So I think she drove a lot of the way down and he drove a lot of the way back. So it was raining, at least off and on. And my daughter's comment was, the wipers are too slow for her. Now, can you customize the speed of the wipers? Yes. But FSD wants them to be automatic, right? And for some reason, she's complaining because they're too slow. Most people complain about the wipers being too fast. So I don't know. But I get it. I mean, she's used to customizing. And so the Tesla, forget FSD, the Tesla itself is not, you can customize some stuff, but you have to know what you're doing to get it done. And you have to be happy enough with what you've customized to leave it that way. So it sounds like, thinking back on it, it seems like a Volkswagen ID4. Now, some of you EV people might go like, but actually, to me, the EV4 or ID4, did I say Volkswagen ID4? I'm not Volkswagen ID4. The ID4 is kind of like a small step from, say, a Tiguan. A Tiguan is a VW of a similar size SUV. A lot of all the controls would be set up all the same way, so it would be very similar. My son-in-law, when he drove, I think her biggest complaint was the fogging, and I think it was just I didn't have the windshield, the inside the windshield's cleaned off enough. But whatever, I mean, I get it. If you can't see through the windshield, you're not happy. So anyway, I think they're not in the category of being anywhere near ready for a Tesla. No. Could they go to a different car? Yes, but I think they're concerned about making too much of a change. And I get it. That's fine. I mean, that's part of the reason why you explore these things, so you can find out what you like, don't like before you commit to such things. So there's that part. Interestingly enough, I did have some phantom braking on this trip. The ones that surprised me more was when I was driving next to a semi. It's almost like, I've talked before about having a committee of people who drive the car for FSD. It's almost like whoever the person was from the committee who was driving FSD at that time had fallen asleep at the wheel and then suddenly woken up and found themselves next to a semi and kind of like, oh, got scared. I mean, that's what it felt like. Okay, yes, that's assigning human emotions to it, but there it is. So I had that happen a couple of times. There are other places where I could explain away, like, well, there was a shadow on the road, and so it didn't know what it was looking at, things like that. Anyway, to me, phantom braking is usually not too big a deal, but it does happen from time to time. This one's about safety lights. So the lights on top of police cars, trooper cars, highway maintenance people, all those kind of things. In Texas, since we have red and blue lights, it seems like the red and blue lights don't really register. But in, was it Mississippi? Somewhere, I went by a trooper that had solid blue lights. And when the car saw the solid blue lights, it slowed down a little bit, about 5 miles an hour, which is about what you should be doing. So I found that very interesting that it recognized that. Just not in Texas. But whatever, peace and harmony, that's the way it is. I did notice later in Texas, there was a highway hero guy, whatever he is. You know, a guy who helps out people who are stranded on the side of the road. I think he must have blue and yellow lights, and the car reacted to that as well. Okay, so it's only the red and blue ones it's not reacting to. Anyway, that was nice to see that, at least some behavior like that. All right, so I've made comments like this before, but so FSD, if a lane change is more my idea, it's slow in executing that lane change. Now, sometimes yes, FSD was just slow. Shouldn't be, but sometimes it was. There it is. So don't expect him to do it quickly. Although if it's his idea, he will usually do it a little bit faster. All right, so this is about what happens when FSD initiates a move back to the right, or even left sometimes, more to the right. So when you pass a car, FSD is reading the traffic behind you, and if it sees traffic behind you coming up quickly, it wants to move over more quickly. Now, that sounds good. I personally prefer that you finish your pass and go back to the right. The problem I was having with this is he would typically move over quicker than I would have suggested, or I would do if I was driving. And that is, how do I say it? So if I would have made sure that I saw the car in my rear view mirror before I moved over, which is what, car and a half, 2 cars length, I'm not sure. FSD was moving over much quicker than that. In fact, in my mirrors, it looked like we were basically cutting off the car. Oh my goodness. So I would accelerate to improve the space. But that part was scary. So that part needs some improvement, definitely. Now, I run with average following distance. And what I would like to say is it'd be nice if we used average following distance in reverse to look back and give that much space behind me. But anyway, whatever, there it is. It's just another one of those things where it felt like you had to be constantly aware. So, no, FSD, as I have it, FSD is not something that you just hand the car over to and let him drive it. I really don't see how the other guys are doing it, other than they're not running 11.4.4. But anyway, there that one is. Yes, FSD will scare you if you're not ready for it. There was one instance along these lines where we were going by an expedition and we were getting over. And I don't remember if the expedition was, no, I think we were just going to, no, I know what it is. We're in the inside lane, we're cruising along, and a car is coming up behind us at a faster speed. So FSD decides he needs to move to the right. We just passed an expedition. To me, it was like at least our bumpers were overlapping. Anyway, brake on, FC off, accelerate out, and get over. It's just, I can't. I'm not comfortable enough with FSD to trust it in these situations. There that is. So the heaviest rain I experienced was coming back, going through Georgia. Was it Georgia? I think it was Georgia. So, there's several things I know. So, first of all, FSD would limit the speed if it felt like the rain was too heavy. And I guess I've never driven in the rain at highway speeds, so that was a surprise to me. So in one of the situations, there was a truck that came by, a pickup came by, and it was throwing up a bunch of moisture from underneath, and FSD, oh no, I can't see. So he would limit the speed based upon what was happening. So I think we were in a 65 zone or something like that. So I had been driving 65 manually before I put on FSD. So FSD is going, oh no, I can't do this. I need to slow down to, if it was 65, then he'd slow down to 60. And then he'd slow down to 55. And he would slow down to 50. So you get the degraded FSD message, which I've seen before, yes. But I've seen it in a 45 zone. And that wasn't really a big deal. In this case, we're in a 65 zone, so it was a bigger deal. So we get those reductions, and like I said, there was a pickup that came by, and when he came by, he just sucked all the moisture off the road and into the air, and FSD had a fit about that one. However, at one point, there was a car that went by just slightly faster than we were going, and FSD was able to adapt to him and use him as you might call a pilot fish, the guy who's leading. So that was interesting to see. Okay, so I think it's fair to say in heavy rain, I mean, if you haven't driven FSD in heavy rain, you haven't experienced this yet, as soon as the car wipes his windshield 3 or 4 times quickly, we get FSD degraded, right? It's not a question of whether or not you can see, it's just you get the FSD degraded message. But there you go. I mean, it helps if you have somebody leading. If you can follow somebody, you're much better off. And I've seen that at night too, where if a car comes by and they're not going all that much faster than you, you just get on their back. you can follow them for a long time. Okay, there you go. Okay, Ray, so what's the bottom line with the FSD on this trip? All right, so most of the stuff I experienced, although some of it was new to me, wasn't a surprise. I'd gotten FSD degraded messages in the rain before, just not at highway speeds. So the fact that I had to slow down, at first it was like, oh, that's what's going on, okay? The phantom braking surprised me, and it seemed more pronounced with Opie than it does with Grandpa, but Grandpa's mostly around town, so I don't know, maybe there's a slight difference there. But the other stuff, yeah, it's pretty much the same thing. Most of the time, I'm pretty comfortable with it. It's just occasionally there are things that bother me. The vision thing, I've gotten kind of used to the vision thing. Of course, now they're coming out with a update that's a recall from that they negotiated with NHTSA. To me, I agree with putting the messages at the top and making them bigger text. Yes, that should have been a no-brainer. But the fact that they had to bring the hand nag back a little bit more, I don't like that part as much, because it implies you have to be looking at the screen more often. But are any of these the deal breakers? I don't think so. To me, the deal breakers are, I'm not comfortable, and I think that's a fair way to put it, is I'm not comfortable at times when FSD should be handling pulling out into traffic, and when I'm looking at him, it's like, I don't like what he's doing. Okay, it's that easy, that simple. So the way I see FSD is, it's fun to play with, so to speak. It's interesting to train it. I actually, to be fair, no, I depend upon a fair amount, but I'm always ready to take over. I don't know how people apparently sleep while they're in autopilot or FSD. I just can't. I can't see trusting it that much. It just doesn't make sense to me. But, you know, maybe I just feel like I'm the one paying for the insurance. I'm the one taking the financial risk. Not to mention, if I get in an accident and I get hurt, it'll take a long time to recover from it. So there's too much risk to just letting it do its thing. But I can see where if people have been doing it for years, they've gotten used to it, and they have less problem than I do. I admittedly have only been using it since June of 2023. So that's half a year, but still, it's only half a year. Would I suggest... Well, let's go here. Okay, if you buy FSD on a brand new car today, it's $12,000. Oh my goodness. Is it worth $12,000? No. Now, if you have the opportunity to put your car into a robo-taxi fleet and it makes money for you and it makes enough money, then it becomes a financial question of, are you getting enough money in to make up for the money going out for FSD? Because you can subscribe, and if it turns out you don't like it, you can always cancel subscription. It's about $200 a month, so that's not too bad. It's just, if you're going to keep it for 5 years, you must have paid the base price for it, or the overall price of $12,000. Now, the way I got into FSD first is with Grandpa. Grandpa's a used car, and it came with FSD. But the price difference between that used car and another used car like it without FSD was only a couple $100 difference. So it's almost like you're getting FSD for free if you want to look at it that way. So that's the way I went about it. I mean, until we get to robotaxi land, I don't see the financial return on this. But I will tell you that using FSD is much more pleasant than using autopilot. Because autopilot, you have to turn autopilot off, switch lanes, and then turn autopilot back on. With FSD, it does lane change for you. So as long as you don't have anything where you have to interrupt, it keeps going. So if it makes financial sense to you to get FSD, oh yes, absolutely, get it. Just keep in mind that at the end of the year or 2 weeks, whatever the latest promise is, that has been going on for years. I like to think that they have come down to the point where they know what they have to do. It's just a question of execution. So hopefully sometime next year, the execution finally comes to fruition and we have an FSD that's usable. I mean, really usable. But you'll see in some of my FSD videos, I'll say, could you do robotaxi with it? And in some cases, well, at least this part, yes, you could. It would probably work. So why not? Okay. Like I said, each person has to make their financial decision based upon where they're going. Like I said, if you find a used car, and it has FSD on it, it's almost like you get FSD for free if you're buying it from Tesla. Now, if you're buying from a dealership, they may want to mark it up. That's a whole nother question. But then again, if you're buying it from a dealership, you're probably getting it cheaper anyway, the overall cost. So maybe it'll all work out. Anyway, it's a fun toy. You just have to be aware of what's going on. There you go.